Weakness feels harmless. At first, it feels like rest, like self-care, like choosing yourself. It feels like you're being reasonable, balanced, smart. Then it takes everything, slowly, quietly, completely. And by the time you realize what it cost you, the price has already been paid. Stay with me, because this is the cost no one talks about. Weakness hides. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't feel like weakness in the moment. Weakness hides as comfort, as the decision to stay in bed instead of train, as the choice to scroll instead of study, as the justification to delay instead of execute. It feels logical. It feels earned. It feels like you're just being kind to yourself. But comfort, when chosen repeatedly, becomes a cage. And you're building that cage, one comfortable choice at a time. Weakness wears excuses. It dresses itself up as reasons, as circumstances, as bad timing. I'll start tomorrow. That's weakness. I'm too tired today. That's weakness. The situation isn't right yet. That's weakness. But it doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like logic, like fairness, like reasonable thinking. And that's the trap, because excuses always sound reasonable. That's their purpose. Weakness pretends to be rest. It tells you that stopping is recovery, that quitting is self-preservation, that giving up is being realistic. But rest rebuilds. Weakness deteriorates. Rest is strategic. Weakness is surrender. Rest prepares you for the next challenge. Weakness ensures you never face one. And the difference? The difference is intent and honesty. Real rest serves your strength. Weakness serves your comfort. And most people can't tell the difference anymore because they've been weak for so long, they've forgotten what strength feels like. The real price of being weak. Let's count the cost. Lost time, years of it, decades sometimes. Time you spent making excuses instead of progress. Time you spent choosing comfort instead of growth. Time you spent waiting for perfect conditions that never came. And you can't get that time back. It's gone, spent, wasted. Not because you failed, but because you never tried. Because weakness convinced you to wait, to delay, to stay comfortable. Lost respect from others, but more importantly, from yourself. People stop believing in you when you consistently fail to follow through, when your words don't match your actions, when your promises don't lead to results. They stop taking you seriously. They stop investing in you. They stop expecting anything from you. And eventually, you stop expecting anything from yourself because weakness has trained you to accept less, to settle, to believe that mediocrity is all you're capable of. Lost potential. This is the heavy one, the one that hurts when you're honest with yourself. You know what you could have been, what you could have built, what you could have become. If you had started years ago, if you had stayed consistent, if you had chosen discipline over comfort. But you didn't. And now you're living a smaller version of your life, a weaker version, a version shaped by years of choosing ease over effort. And potential unexpressed doesn't wait. It doesn't preserve itself. It just dies, quietly, permanently. Lost self-trust. This is the deepest cost, the one that affects everything. When you repeatedly fail to keep promises to yourself, you stop believing your own commitments. You say you'll wake up early. You don't. You say you'll train today. You skip. You say this time will be different. It's not. And every broken promise to yourself erodes your self-trust until you reach a point where you don't believe yourself anymore, where your own commitments mean nothing, where your word, even to yourself, is worthless. That's the real cost of weakness. Not just what you lose externally, what you lose internally. The ability to trust yourself, to rely on yourself, to believe that when you say something, you'll actually do it. Self-improvement isn't optional, it's survival. Because life doesn't care about your comfort. It doesn't pause while you decide to get your life together. It doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It just keeps moving. And if you're not improving, you're falling behind. Strength is trained, not found, not inherited, not given. You build it daily through choices, through discipline, through the decision to do hard things when you don't feel like it. Every rep you complete when you're tired builds strength. Every task you finish when you're unmotivated builds strength. Every promise you keep to yourself builds strength. And over time, those small acts of discipline compound into something unbreakable. Discipline is built daily, not in moments of inspiration, in moments of resistance. When you don't want to wake up, and you do. When you don't want to train, and you do. When you don't want to work, and you do. That's discipline. The quiet, unglamorous choice to execute regardless of how you feel. Responsibility replaces regret. This is the shift. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for rescue. You stop expecting life to be fair. You just take responsibility for your results, for your condition, for your future. Not because it's fair, but because it's effective. Because responsibility gives you power. Blame gives you excuses. Responsibility creates action. Blame creates stagnation. Responsibility builds strength. Blame preserves weakness. When life applies pressure, everything reveals itself. Weak habits break under stress. They collapse. They fail. They prove they were never sustainable. The person who never trained their discipline can't handle adversity. The person who always chose comfort can't handle discomfort. The person who built their life on excuses has nothing to stand on when excuses stop working. Pressure exposes weakness. Immediately, ruthlessly, completely. Strong systems survive chaos. They bend but don't break. They adapt but don't collapse. Because they were built to handle pressure. They were tested under load. They were forged through discipline. Strong people survive crisis, not because they're lucky, but because they prepared when things were calm. They trained when no one was watching. They built discipline when it wasn't required. They developed strength before they needed it. And when pressure came, they didn't break because they were ready. Why preparation matters? Because pressure is inevitable. Life will test you. It will apply pressure. It will demand strength you may not have. And if you're weak, you'll collapse. You'll quit. You'll regret every moment you chose comfort over preparation. But if you're strong, you'll adapt. You'll endure. You'll survive. Not through luck, through preparation, through the work you did when no one was watching. Discipline over comfort. Always. Comfort delays pain. It doesn't remove it. It just postpones it. And when it finally arrives, it's worse. You avoid the discomfort of training today, but you'll face the pain of weakness tomorrow. You avoid the effort of discipline now, but you'll face the consequences of chaos later. You avoid the challenge of growth today, but you'll face the regret of stagnation for years. Comfort is alone with interest, and eventually, life collects. Discipline chooses pain now. The controlled pain. The productive pain. The pain that builds instead of destroys. It chooses the discomfort of waking early over the pain of wasted years. It chooses the effort of training over the regret of weakness. It chooses the challenge of growth over the stagnation of comfort. And that choice, made daily, creates a completely different life. Strength pays dividends later. Compound interest on discipline. Every hard choice you make now makes future choices easier. Every act of discipline now builds capacity for future challenges. Every moment of discomfort now creates strength for future pressure. And over time, those dividends grow until you become someone who can handle what used to break you. Mental strength is trained through daily choices. Controlling emotions, not suppressing them. Controlling them! You feel the resistance, but you don't obey it. You feel the fear, but you don't let it decide. You feel the discomfort, but you don't let it stop you. That's control. That's strength. That's what separates those who build from those who break. Resisting shortcuts, because shortcuts create weakness. Every shortcut you take teaches you that effort is optional, that discipline is negotiable, that you can have results without work. But you can't. And when reality reveals that truth, you're unprepared. So you resist shortcuts. You take the long path. You do the full work. Not because it's fun, because it builds real strength. Staying steady in discomfort. This is the skill. Discomfort is temporary, but your response to it defines everything. If you run from discomfort, you stay weak. If you stay in discomfort, you get strong. It's that simple and that hard. Weakness is no longer acceptable. That's the identity shift. You're not someone who makes excuses anymore. You're not someone who quits when things get hard. You're someone who executes, someone who adapts, someone who endures. That's your identity now. Not your goal, your reality. Excuses stop, not because you don't feel them, but because you don't obey them. Your mind offers excuses. You notice them, and you move anyway. Because you've trained yourself to act regardless, to execute despite resistance. Standards rise. What used to be acceptable isn't anymore. Average effort isn't enough. Comfortable choices aren't enough. Excuses aren't enough. Your standards demand more, because you demand more from yourself. And that demand, that refusal to accept weakness, changes everything. Weakness is expensive, and you can't afford it. Comment strength if you're done paying the price of weakness.